have to like roll back the days because it's like a long time ago. So I did my major here, so UST, and at the time I was getting into the computer science major. Well, back at those days, we do not really have like school-based admission. So we just get into computer science, and then that's it. So then the question is, why do I actually choose computer science over there back at that time? Because it's very probably it's like naturally I would like to do computer science, and when I was in my high school days, then I usually try to play around with the computer a lot. So it's not very common to like have a computer in those days, but I do have a Apple IIe. I'm not sure whether you know what that is. Probably no. It's like a big chunk of things, and that is the first computer that I have. And I usually like obviously play games there and not doing any useful stuff. But later on, I would kind of write programs and trying to mess about. And obviously, it's not any useful programs. It's probably like writing games and stuff like that. And I always kind of go to Sham Shui Po to go around and take a look at stuff. And it's like naturally I would be interested in doing things with computers, and that's why I go for computer science major. And hopefully I was not wrong. And and still it's kind of cool because at that time computer science is like not exactly as hot as now. It's not too bad, but hopefully that was the right choice. But I have no way to know. But hopefully that was cool.
Yeah.
A little bit hard to say for this because for start, I don't really get the word beauty because working inside a computer is not about beauty. It's always just like numbers and programs and hardware and all those boring stuff. Well, at least when you're working on it. But like the beauty of the major is like it is going to be able to interest different people. So you have games, and then you have business stuff, and then you have everything that you can actually pull people together. And so one thing that is actually somehow attracts me a lot, again back in the days, is when I was studying. So it's at the start it's usually like boring stuff first, like theoretical stuff, and trying to work with the how the inner working of a computer and the hardware communications, and it's all those kind of like boring stuff. So and then later on, when you can actually go on and take a look at those electives, then there are some fascinating stuff over there, and it gives me probably some realization that things can be done in a good way using computers, like because I actually work a lot in the computer graphics area when I was studying. So that is actually pretty fascinating when I first saw those kind of things that you can create from the very basic. So you will be able to create some nice stuff by writing some simple programs, and then you'll be able to draw pretty pictures and 3D stuff. So absolutely not the ones that you are getting right now, but it is a very good starting point to be able to appreciate that by doing some boring programming, and you'll be able to have some very fascinating kind of result on the screen. So that is something that probably gives you the beauty of the major, because that's really beauty. It's visual. So it's rather than like going into the books or going into the program, work 24 hours a day, is the result that really matters. so there are quite a bit of stereotyping of computer science students or computer science people. So at the very start, like when I was studying, so usually when people say that you are studying computer science, it's like you are working in a computer shop, and then you would know which computers that is going to work the best for you, that kind of things. And whenever there are like computer problems, things like is not working, then they would just phone you up and then ask you what's going on. Well, even though it's like hardware problems, electrical problems, whatever problems involving wires and like electronics, that is your job. So it's like you know all those kind of things, and it's well, within relatives or family, then you are just the go-to guy to fix computers, even though the major is really maths. So the major is really maths. So it's not exactly like fixing computers. So I guess that fixing computers is the job of some other people, like in a shopping center, those guys that they know how to fix computers. But I think computer scientists they don't know how to fix computers. But that is very funny stereotypes at the time, that if you are studying computer science, then you know how to fix a computer. So that's one thing which is really interesting. Like I also get to go to the homes of the relatives to set up their network, and like building up the Wi-Fi's and lay out the wires, all those kind of things. And so that's not the job of computer scientists, but but somehow, well, it's like everything is like coming together. So it's anything about the computer, hardware, wires, plugs, then it's your job. So that's one thing. And another thing about computer science nowadays, well, I guess that like fixing computer things is kind of like back in the days. I hope that nowadays is not like that. But I think right now more people are thinking about computer science as a trendy stuff, and it's kind of like a super fantastic technology kind of advanced topic, but then still people are more inclined to think about computer scientists as just a programmer. It's like they just sit in front of the computer and then start to write a program and finish a few lines of code, and that's their job. So but in fact that is not exactly computer scientists. So writing a program is essential, but programming is just a tool. So we actually, as I said, computer science is really just kind of another area of maths. So it's not exactly like a vocational kind of stuff. It's not doing the work and fixing the computer and all those kind of things, but it's really about analyzing the problem and try to come up with a solution. But programming is just one of the tools for that. But it seems that whenever people are talking about computer science, they would just kind of relate that directly to how well you can write a program. It's actually essential. So if you can write a good program, then you probably will be a good computer scientist, but it's not directly related. So there are some computer science people, they just know maths. So it's not exactly the same. Well, this is a simple question. So it's always passion. So career prospect is just really nothing. I mean, so a couple of years, probably not a couple of years ago, like 3-5 years ago, not a lot of people are going to go for computer science. Like when they apply for a major in their universities, they are going for like, well, at least in Hong Kong, they are going for civil engineering, mechanical engineering. So it's just a few years back. So things change a lot and quickly. So just like a couple of years ago, suddenly there's a boom of everything, and every student are trying to get into computer science. And what I'm saying is things change very quickly. So if you are getting into computer science now, and you just care about the career prospect, maybe it's still going to like have a good way of life after you graduate for a few years, but things change a lot in a cycle. So maybe like 3 or 4 years later, by the time that you graduate, then the trend changes. So it becomes, I don't know, it becomes another major, maybe chemical engineering, anything. So it may actually change into another thing. So if you just look at career prospects as one of the consideration when you take the major, then you may actually make a huge mistakes, because if you don't like the major, then you will have a hard time, not just the 4 years that you spend there, it's the rest of your life. And so what's worse is you may actually hate your job for like the next 20 years, but you still have to do it because that's the only thing that you know. And I think that that is really a very simple answer. You just have to love the things that you are doing. Otherwise, you may not have as good a chance to succeed than people who are loving their work. And it's just kind of a torture for the rest of the life. If you kind of hate it, if you get into a major and then you kind of hate it, and then you're going to hate it for 20 more years, and I think that is quite miserable. So it's just really passion. So you have to love it. If you don't love it, then forget about it. I think that is a good thing, that you can do different minors, maybe even like a couple of minors, and also have total control about what are the things that you want to do. Like you can have double majors as well as like a combination of everything, because you have all the flexibility to do stuff by arranging it with yourself. And so like before the 4 years curriculum, you do not really have that flexibility. So you get into a major and then you just do that and then you just finish and then go. So there is not much kind of things that you can play around with. So right now you can have all the flexibility in trying to arrange your own path and trying to do in your own time, and that is only going to be good. But students have to be aware that it's not like it's not a trendy thing to do it. It's like 5 of my friends are doing it, and that's why I am doing it. But you still have to try to think about the workload that is coming along, because doing double major is not an easy task. You have to plan ahead very well, and you also have to put in a considerable amount of effort into trying to fulfill all the requirements. Maybe you have a time frame as well. Maybe you say, I want to do it in 5 years' time. So it's tough. So it's good, but it's also tough. You will have a view of like different things which can be beneficial to you, and you will be able to see things in different perspective, and that is not something other students will be able to get. So everything is kind of good and beneficial to your career, to your future, whatever that you're doing. So everything is good. It's just that you have to take into account of the time that you spend, whether you will be able to deal with the pressure, as well as the scheduling, the tight scheduling, like you are going to study 25 credits in one semester. Can you handle it? That kind of thing. So it's just really personal preference. But having a way to do that is going to be good for the students, and everything is great and rosy. Apart from that, you may fail. So you have to kind of plan ahead and understand it very well. So this is just like the other question that I've answered before about the passion thing. So you just have to love the job that you are going to work on. So because that is just an extension. So if you love the major that you are studying, then it's very likely that you're going to love the job that you're going to work on later. But the way that the major or the curriculum that we have in the school is not exactly reflecting what you're going to do in the future career or in jobs. So it's very likely and highly likely that things that you're going to work on later is totally different from the things that you have studied in the university years. but it is not saying that the things in a school is useless. It's a building block to try and get you into a way of working so that you will be able to succeed in the career. So it's like you are studying computer science, so there are a lot of different areas, and it's very likely that when you work in a job later, you're not going to have to learn all the stuff that you learned during those years. So that means, oh, all the things that I'm doing right now is kind of useless, but it's just really trying to build it up, trying to make sure that you understand what it takes to do things well. It doesn't really matter what is the kind of task that you are dealing with, and that is going to be good for the future career as well as all the internships that you're doing. So there is, what I'm saying is there is no direct match in terms of the major and the job or whatever that you're going to do. But we are trying our best to build up a basis, a foundation for you so that you'll be able to succeed over there. And you would know that you can learn different things by yourself based on the knowledge that you have from your university life, and then you will be able to succeed over whatever that you're dealing with later. So it can be two sides of thing, right? So one thing is they actually doubt their own choice when they are already in the major. Like if I am in a computer science major and somehow I find that I'm not good at a particular area, let's say I'm not good at programming, let's say, and then that will be a major stumbling block when you are kind of like going and study some more advanced courses, because you have a little bit of a doubt about your own ability. And so, but that can change a bit if you try to focus on different areas. So, well, every major has a lot of different areas of things that you can do. So it's not always going to be just one single path. So even just like computer science, you get into here, you assume that everybody has to be a good programmer, and then let's say that if a student is not exactly a good programmer, can he or she succeed in our major? Absolutely, he or she can do it, because it's not just about one particular skills. Maybe you can focus in another area, like so we have theoretical computer science, which is not exactly about programming. So you can just focus on those area that you're interested in or you can actually handle. So you just have to branch out. You just have to try and look at everything around you. So you cannot just be discouraged by some specific things that you kind of narrow down and think about that as something which is not going to work. So you just have to kind of like look at everything and try to have a more broader perspective of the things that you can do within your major. So that's one thing. So that's about the student, him or herself. So about the peers, like peer pressure of doubting your major, like, I don't know, maybe there are like many computer science students are saying bad stuff about some other majors. I don't know. So it's just kind of forget about it. So it's really nothing to do with the peers. So if I have like 10 friends who are not studying on my majors and they always said that my major is crap, and actually it's not related to them anyway. So it's just it's about my own studies, my major. They have no idea about what I'm doing. So, and there is also a thing about the phase that we always said is if you focus, then you always can excel into whatever that you're doing. So it doesn't really matter. So I think, like, as your question say, social pressure is just do not pay attention to them, because that is really not exactly related. So for start, because I study here, and well, for everything. So I mean, everything that I have been studying after high school is here. So there is actually no problem in trying to come back into UST to teach rather than in CTU. And because I'm here right now, so I'm sure that we can only say good things about UST. Well, the difference is well, I was in CTU for just 1.5 years, so it's not a long time. So probably it's not quite fair to kind of like making a comparison among the two. So because I am here for a long time already. So but then the basic thing is the focus there back in those days is they don't really actually focus so much into let's say the theoretical way of working, and I mean in the major. So they would try to be practical, and they have a curriculum which is focusing on doing your job well later. So that means the way of working or the target for the teaching is a little bit different. So like when I was there, so we have students who are working on the internship for 1 year, and that is mandatory. So it is not happening here right now, at least. So it's just the focus is a little bit different. So over there, it's really talking about the vocational training, whether you will be able to do your job well after you graduate. Here is a lot more diverse. So you have a lot of like basic understanding, theoretical stuff, and certainly you also have some useful skills that you can use in your kind of career later. But the focus here is more about, as I said before in another question, is about the building blocks, trying to get you into the basis so that you will be able to succeed whatever job that you're going to do. And so it's a little bit different. So over in CTU, they specifically talk about some skills that you will be able to immediately use in the workplace. So that's the difference. And the culture is a little bit different, and certainly as UST students are more hardworking, and they love to study, and they can study 24 hours a day, and it's not like that over there. Yeah, well, competitive is a good word. Yeah, that's a good word. Stop. Let's just get to the positive side. It's very competitive and hardworking. Yeah. It's just like our students. Usually we are deadline fighters. So I'm also a deadline fighter. So when things are coming, then I have to do it, and that kind of thing. Well, certainly we have to plan ahead. So like before the start of the semester, like in the winter break or summer break, we have to plan ahead and try to prepare the work that we are doing over the semester. And one good thing about the courses that I'm doing is I have been doing them for quite a few semesters. So I kind of know how they work. So I do not really need to put too much effort into understanding the whole flow of the thing over the semester. I can just get into position and things will just kind of work. So that is a little bit better. And I'm also a bit astonished that I have to do so many courses this semester. So I can just count and there are like 7. So, oh, well, my goodness. So, but well, some of those are like online courses. And in terms of like managing online courses compared to like traditional face-to-face courses, is a little bit different because the online materials, sometimes they have been prepared already. So you do not really actually need to kind of do it again. So it's probably going to save you some time, but it also takes a bit of time for the administrative kind of handling of all the stuff. But because again, as I said, I have already done it for 3 times. So that means I know what to do when the time comes. But then it's still kind of like everybody is a deadline fighter mode. So before the deadline, then you just have to like sleep 4 hours a day. So that's the usual way of working. So the one good thing about our major is the structure of curriculum. We have deliberately tried to have less let's say, core and require courses that you need to take in the first and second year when you get in the major. So that means you can try and explore a lot of things when you are in the senior years. So that means we are not actually fixing the path for you. You will be able to choose your own way of working or the things that you're interested in. And so, well, that means if we give you all the choices, then you would have to be proactive to try and reach out to all those things. So if you just like listen to your friends and then you just go to study that course because all my friends are there, then it may not actually help a lot. So you, as computer science student, you have to try and touch everything to get a flavor of it. So courses is one way of good kind of channels where you'll be able to get the flavor of different areas. Another thing is to get into working on projects. Doesn't really have to be like big projects. You can actually try and explore opportunities. We have plenty of these kind of opportunities around, like working in internships is one way, and trying to participate in projects from some faculties is another way, and maybe you do some Europe kind of work is another way of trying to get into some specific areas, and or even your own pet projects. So you can just try to work on your projects all the time. Doesn't really have to be big ones. It can be anything. So it's really trying to work on those things to get to know them, and there's no easy way to understand everything. So you have to put in the time to try and explore in order to know which area that you are going to be probably interested in. And so that probably is the way that I suggest that the students should do. So that means work, do things. So try to reach out to different areas as much as possible. So I think this question is really focusing on building a career in the let's say the commercial world. But if you are trying to focus on academia, then the things is probably a little bit different, because if you don't have a master's degree and maybe a PhD degree, then it will be a little bit hard to actually have a career in the academia. So it's really about your target and your choice. And so there is no one way to to reach your goal. So if you want to go off and do a bit of research work, then there is no choice. You really have to do a postgraduate degree. So you cannot really say that, oh, I don't really need a postgraduate degree, so I would be able to get you into a research firm. That's just impossible. So so I believe that many people are saying that you do not really need to have postgraduate degrees in computer science area. They are just really focusing on one particular group of work, of career that they are talking about. So it's really about maybe they are thinking about entrepreneurs and trying to create a company by yourself. Then certainly you don't need to actually study anything. You can just start your company when you're high school. So it's just really not exactly right, in a sense that you do not really need to have whatever degree that you need for a particular area that you are going to focus in. So I would say that different things that you would like to achieve, you will have to do different way of working. So obviously there is a reason that we have so many students applying for master degrees. So that means it is actually needed in some ways. I also believe that there are some jobs that going to require their prospective employees to have a master degrees, no matter what that is. So somehow, so I mean, it's not all, but there may be some companies that they want their employees to at least have a master degree as well, because they actually think about all the undergraduate students. They may not be able to kind of pick the ones who are good. Maybe the ones who have done master degrees actually be a little bit better in some sense. So, but well, it's really different. So it's different companies are going to focus on different things, different career, going to focus on different things, different objectives for yourselves, going to have different paths as well. So it's not quite right for this one. So the introductory course was created as a way to let students understand the major. So that's the primary reason for that. And another reason for the introductory course was to attract students to come into the computer science major. And so that's why we deliberately try to make it a bit more interesting, like making games and like graphic stuff, all those kind of things. And so that is the reasoning that we create a course like that. And if the students get into the course and they let's say they could not get a good grade from the course, and it's a little bit harsh, but I really seriously question about the suitability of the students to actually do things in the computer science area, because sometimes our major is very, very specific about the kind of students that can actually work well inside our major. So we require students to have a very good logical thinking ability and have a good have a good sense of what the program is doing. And sometimes this is not easy. So some students probably they do not really actually have that way of working in their high school or whatever. So they will find it very hard to study together with the materials in Com 1021. And that is actually sometimes reflecting the ability of whether you will be able to do the same thing in a computer science major. So although it's a little bit harsh, but I would say if you could not do well in 1021, then probably students have to think hard about whether they would be able to do well in a computer science major as well. So that's the harsh truth. But the other side of the coin is we get all the students into the course and we don't really care about their background. So due to the popularity of the computer science stuff, like the STEM thing that has been going on for I don't know how many years, it's very likely that many students already have the background. So they already know how it works. They have already kind of written a few programming languages during their high school time. So they actually know the things. So that means it's just natural that some students will be able to get a good grade over there compared to the ones who have totally no idea. So they just get into the course, they just use their computers to do administrative stuff and play games. They never actually start to write a program in their entire lives. And that probably is going to be more difficult than the ones who have actually done a lot of things. So, so that means if you get a bad grade, it's just because the others are too good in the sense that they have already learned it. So it's not exactly about your own ability, but so I would say that two of them are going to affect the other ones as well. So if you could not actually get a good grade, then you really have to think about whether is it because of the ability, suitability, and then the other side of the things is whether you actually can handle the materials. It's just that the other people are too good. So you just have to analyze which one is that. And then you will be able to decide whether you want to go and do computer science. Because, well, as we talk about so far from the other questions, if you cannot do well in your major or if you hate your major, then that's entire life wasted. It's very likely that if you hate your major, then after you graduate, you're not going to work on a job which is related to your major. So that means you're wasting 4 years of stuff inside the university life. So just have to think hard about what is the actual things that you have a problem with if you cannot get a good grade. So if you think that, oh, well, actually I can work on the materials very well, I understand what it means, it's just that well, in the exam, I cannot perform well, or the other guys are too good, then maybe there is still a way that you will be able to get back into studying computer science. But if you feel that if I cannot do well in 1021 because I just totally don't know what's happening, then computer science is not suitable for those students.